Welcome, Mr. Gotabaya, to this interview. And I'm really honored and privileged that you have given this time to me. I think perhaps your first interview after taking over as Sri Lanka's seventh executive president. When you actually spoke first after becoming the president or after winning the elections, you mentioned that we are equidistant from almost every pass in this region. And you want to be neutral. You want to have, perhaps, if I am read you correctly, national security and national priorities are your first priority, rather than looking at who you align with or that kind of thing. But this question always crops up, and that's why I'm asking you: is China versus India in Sri Lanka? What is your view on this?
See, I have mentioned this even in my acceptance speech,
Yes.
that we want to be a neutral country.
That's
It is possible that there are examples in the world where, but we know the Indian Ocean is a very important, plays a very important role
Right.
at the present day in geopolitics.
Of course.
So we are in a very geographically situated in a very strategic location,
Right.
and all the sea lanes
Yes.
are
Passing through
close to Sri Lanka from east to west.
Yes.
And you know that the importance of these sea lanes,
Right.
because especially when Asia is developing,
When becoming center of gravity, as you mentioned.
yes, and more their produce has to go to the world.
Right.
And at the same time, when you develop, you need energy.
Right.
The energy resources still is in Middle East,
Yes.
so that it has to come. Then the minerals are in Africa.
Right.
Those things has to
come
come
from there, yeah.
So this is very important.
Yes.
So, but the thing is, these lanes must be free for the whole world, any country. So they can't, no country should control these sea lanes, because that's very important. And when I say neutral, we don't want to bandwagon one country, or get into a balancing
Act somewhere, yes.
We don't want that. That is what I said, neutral. We don't want to be, we are so small, and we can't survive if you get into this balancing acts
Or business of choosing one side, perhaps.
We can't do that. So that and we don't want to get in between this power struggles of superpowers or world powers.
World powers, yeah.
So basically, we want to work with all the countries, and we don't want to do anything which will harm any other countries. Now, for that matter, we understand the importance of the Indian concerns.
Right.
So we can't specially act or engage in any activity which will threaten the security of India.
Right. Which
So
is
that-
well said, yes.
That we have, we know that, and we are in the region. India is a big power, is a big country,
Right.
and though we want to be independent, sovereign nation, that's
Absolutely.
very important.
Oh, of course.
But we don't want to get involved. We have to understand the other
Point of view of other
point
countries.
of view other countries,
Right.
and act accordingly.
Right.
So, but everybody wants today, the most important thing is economic development.
True.
Right?
True.
So that you can't, to do that, you can't be in a restricted zone.
Mindset also.
You have to open up while protecting your country, while protecting your industries, while protecting your businesses. Still, you have to open up to get involved in the world economy.
Exactly.
So for that we are ready.
Right.
So that is why we want to get assistance from India, from Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, China,
Right.
Japan, and this is very important. But then you have to face the reality.
True.
So if in our case, our involvement with China the last few years,
Yes.
especially during Mahinda Rajapaksa government period, it's purely commercial.
Absolutely.
But because of from the very beginning, world analysts, the geopolitical analysts, put us also into the
Orbit.
orbit. So even Hambantota
I was just coming to that, yes.
harbor, they tried to show as a part of the ring of pearls,
yeah,
so
string
that
of pearls, yes.
which circles the India.
Yeah.
But in our this thing, it was not so. Actually, the requirement for ours, we understood, and we were never to give the control of the port to China.
Yes.
So that was a mistake.
Unfortunately, yes, the previous government
Previous
gave it.
government
Yes.
gave it 99-year
Right.
lease, and even China, though China is a good friend of ours and we need their assistance to develop, I'm not afraid to say that was a mistake.
Right. So will you revisit that?
And I will request them to renegotiate and come with a better to assist us. I mean, today the people are not happy on that deal.
Correct.
Because we can't think of only 1 year, 2 year, 5 years. We have to think of the future. What will happen
to the next generation, maybe, or the generation after.
Next
yeah, exactly.
So it's our, giving a small land for an investment is a different thing. To develop a hotel or commercial
property
or build, this is not a problem.
Right.
That's no issue. But a strategically important, economically important harbor,
yeah,
giving that it's not acceptable.
Right.
Because that we should have the control. So we have to renegotiate. Giving a terminal for the operation commercial, it's a different. Giving some location to build a hotel is a different.
Right. But not the control of the port,
not the control of a very important,
strategically very important, yes,
very important
exactly
place is. It's not acceptable.
No, I'm glad you clarified that. Yes.
So that is my position. And also, we want to work with India very closely.
Right.
And we want to work with China as well. But diplomatic relations, economic relations, that everywhere.
Yes.
India is working with China very closely, I know.
Course.
And
yes.
Indian investment goes to China, Chinese investment come to India. Like that, we want investments and help us. But we will not do anything to do with, we don't want to get involved in military and
geopolitical rivalry, which you mentioned.
Yes, exactly. As I mentioned. So
that's right.
And the other thing, what I want to tell the world powers, the others, like India, Indonesia, Singapore, Japan, Australia, the reality is they are scared of the Chinese involvement. That's a reality.
Exactly.
That's
true.
But in our point of view, it is commercial. So that we are a small country, as I said, we want foreign investments to improve our economy. So I invite India, Singapore, Japan, especially, and Australia to come and invest here.
Right.
So that don't allow only China to invest.
To dominate
the
investment, yes.
Come, that is what these governments must encourage. These their private companies to come and invest, come and help us without leaving to one country and then grumbling.
Not doing anything on your own.
Oh, yes.
But that is
so. And this is I openly say this.
That's right.
Because I want them to come and invest in this country.
I'm so glad.
And also, We are a small country.
Right.
Genuinely, we don't want to get involved in these things. But please understand that, and rather than putting pressure on us, understand us and get involved in economic development
Of this country
of
jointly.
this country. There are many ways they can. I'm not saying only putting money. There are so much of take our products.
Right.
We have tea, we have cinnamon, we have pepper, we have coconut, very important, and we can assist help in agriculture. So these are things, help in education, invest in high-tech industries.
Right.
There are a lot of ways
Of course.
that these
So you
countries
will
can help.
liberalize, I think, the policies also of investment, FDI,
Definitely, yeah.
all that. Will
I
happen.
want to cut red tapes. I want to cut difficulties in old, rules and regulations. I'm doing it for the betterment of the country, and so we can assist. I will create an environment, this investment friendly
Right. Absolutely.
environment I will create. So I invite
That's something
them.
that people should take note of.
Yeah.
But you are going to India on your first overseas visit next week, perhaps. What are your two or three main points you will talk to India?
I will reassure
Right.
the Indian government that we will work with India. We are a India friendly country, and we will not do anything which will harm
The security interest,
the security interest or their interest. And I will request to, as I said, to help us
Right.
in investment in many fields, and also help us in education.
Right.
That's very important. And also the development of technology.
So I'm sure you're looking
these
forward
are
to
the-
this visit.
Yes,
You're looking forward.
yeah, I know. I think the present Indian government, even Prime Minister Modi has changed how he approached the neighborhood.
Oh, yes.
So I'm sure.
There will be a lot of things to talk about, but I'm sure you will have a better conversation with him as you come there. But let me just finally, let's do two questions. One is, of course, the pattern of voting that happened in the elections, and you mentioned it very clearly that you would have liked the Tamils and the Muslims to have voted for you. But now that you have been elected, you are also a president of the entire country. How do you take forward the reconciliation process with the minorities?
I believe the development is the answer.
Right.
For the last so many years, the Tamil political leaders and also the Sinhalese political leaders were talking about things that were, not practical, impossible to. So only to fool the people.
Right.
But we should focus on what we can do first, but give them everybody a good opportunity to live as a Sri Lankan in this country, to get education, live a better life, get a good job, and live in dignity. So that I will create that environment. Let the other political things go on, that you can discuss and take. But you can't only focus on that, neglect the well-being of the population. What is important is develop those countries, develop those areas, infrastructure development. But we did, but we have to continue that and push private industries to these areas to create more jobs in that area, and education improve. Education means not only the general education but of vocational education. Develop because for the long period these youth didn't have the opportunity to go to school. They were fighting in jungles. Now give them some training on skill levels, improve the skill levels, so that they can get into certain jobs. So create these job opportunities. This is my focus. Develop these areas so that they will get the equal opportunity like
So
the
the
others.
reconciliation will automatically happen.
Will happen.
So the final question here is this: there is this Western narrative about you, especially, that you are a authoritarian or racist Sinhalese leader, and then the Muslims have a lot to fear from your coming to power. How will you reassure the Muslims here?
I think it's the wrong perception that was created during the humanitarian operation, during this conflict period.
Right.
True that I was in the army for 20 years.
Yes.
I was fighting as an army officer of this terrorism.
Right.
Then I retired from the army and went abroad.
Yes.
I lived nearly 12 years in US.
Yes.
And then when I came back as the Secretary of Defense.
Right.
So, but then people recognized me only as the Secretary of Defense. They know only as a Secretary of Defense.
That's right.
So maybe because of that, they think, okay, this man is authoritarian, and I'm a disciplined person.
That's
that
right.
doesn't mean
That, of course, yeah.
that you are.
You have nothing against the community, I'm
No,
sure.
I have not again, and I have proved in my action that I am not racist, or I don't work for only one section of the society. That is why I invited Tamils and Muslims, everybody, to join me
Yes.
in developing the country,
Right.
in bringing the country up. So, though people, that the opposition can show me as a dictator or authoritarian person or whatever, but I'm not. And people will see in my actions
As you go along, yes.
yes. So, but I want to tell them to join me. And at the same time, I want to tell especially the international media,
Right.
don't go by hearsay things, or don't go by rumors,
Right.
and don't propagate these things. Understand me, speak to me, meet me, and see how I'm doing, how I work,
Right.
and give the correct picture of it. It's for these we are is a small country,
Right.
developing country. The people should help us,
Right.
not to put
Obstacles in your way.
obstacles in
Right.
my way. So that will not help anybody.
Yeah, but those charges that were there against some of your officers, sometimes against you also, about human rights violations during the last phase, they still continue to come up once in a while.
No, see, war is not a rosy thing. No, whether you internally fight, or whether the Americans come and fight in Iraq or Afghanistan, or UK come and fight in Iraq and Afghanistan, or whatever, whether it is internal or outside,
Right.
war is not a rosy thing.
Exactly.
And everything doesn't go very smoothly, But we are a poor country, we are a lesser power. So our things are highlighted
Which
more.
we spoke even in those years,
So
I
the
remember.
big powers can cover up
Get away with a lot of murder, yeah.
so that it's very unfair to do that, because as a nation we are Buddhist, we are a very peaceful nation. We were living, our history is so thousands years goes back to, and we have our own values. Our culture is very rich, and our
and I think the existence is very peaceful in that sense.
Yes. So rather than just criticizing on, and I like even the Tamil diaspora to forget about these things. Nobody is benefited out of this.
Right.
So nobody will get. So we must work together to develop and help the people in the country, irrespective of their. And I'm sure if the minority community understand this, then only if they do certain things which will create suspicion in the minds of majority community, only that the majority community will react.
Right, right.
So they had to understand that. They have to understand it. Everybody is a Sri Lankan citizen. If he is born in Sri Lanka, so they have equal rights, everybody. But they should not do certain things. They have to understand the reality when there is it is whether, however, how much society move forward or advance, even within the so-called advanced societies, these problems are there. No?
Of course, yeah, of course. There will always be differences between communities, and
Yes.
that's how.
So that we have to understand that and live.